In a series of articles published by the Daily Maverick, there were questions on the implementation of this initiative. Lesufi says some of the accusations are political and speculative. So let's try and put things into perspective then. We're joined in studio by Daily Maverick citizen editor Mark Heywood. Mark Haywood, good morning to you and thank you for your time. There seems to have been a series of articles where you are effectively debating the Premier of the Gauteng province on the existence of the so-called peace wardens. I want to quickly extrapolate from your article that was released recently where you say these words, and I quote now, "It is sad and worrying when a politician with the express constitutional obligations of the Premier resorts to such a level of misrepresentation and tries to retrofit the law to fit his actions." What exactly are you saying there in plain English?
Yeah. Xoli, can I answer your question by stepping back and starting at the beginning?
Sure.
This issue of the Gauteng crime prevention wardens first came to our attention when a young man contacted Maverick citizen and made an allegation that a group of crime prevention wardens in Katlehong had entered his house allegedly searching for drugs on 2 occasions in the middle of the morning. And on the second occasion, they beat him almost to death for nothing. They were wearing the uniforms of the wardens and they were accompanied by a police officer. That young man spent a week in hospital. He's lost his job. He is unable to urinate. He needs surgery. He cannot get surgery. He has been thinking of suicide. And we started to look into his allegations. And after looking into his allegations and interviewing him, and I'm certain of his bona fides, I've spoken to him on numerous occasions, it then caused me to begin a wider investigation into the Gauteng crime prevention wardens and the legality and the manner in which they had been set up.
Yeah.
Let me say as well, because the Premier is misrepresenting me and what I'm trying to do. There's no question that crime is a very, very, very serious problem in Gauteng. 1,489 murders just in 3 months this year, between April and June. There's no question that we need to step up the fight against crime. There's no question that innovation and new ideas are needed.
Yeah.
So this is not, questioning this is not to undermine that for 1 second. The big issues is what Panyaza Lesufi doing, one, within the law, because it's very important that if you set up a new police force, you do it legally, and secondly, is the 1.5 billion rand that has been allocated to it already the best and most effective way to enhance successful crime prevention and to make our communities safe? And my investigation has led me on a journey that has started to answer some of those questions. And unfortunately, the answers are not the answers that Premier Lesufi would like me to come up with.
Okay. So, let's deal with first whether Panyaza Lesufi, perhaps his heart may have been in the right place, in trying to deal with crime, but how he has gone about it is perhaps what is in question here. So, yesterday, we put this question to the police minister, who had a briefing as to whether he's aware of the peace wardens who exist here in Gauteng and whether or not this is allowed in terms of the law. Let's just take a listen for a sec to how he responded to that question. All right, it looks like that bite is still being prepared. But in essence, what I'm going to ask you, or what I was going to ask you on the back of that soundbite is whether or not Panyaza Lesufi's administration has acted unlawfully here by bringing into existence Amapanya. But let's take a pause there for a moment, Mark, because I'm told the bite is ready. Let's just take a listen.
All other structures that are not members of the South African Police Service are dealt by the Minister of Justice through the Criminal Procedure Act. It's him that work on that. Those structures would apply, but the communication and correspondence will be between that structure and the Minister of Justice. And I guess that they would have spoken, they would have given all necessary issues for whatever establishment of those wardens, which is almost similar with what is in Western Cape, but what is in Western Cape is called law enforcement, not wardens, but they will fall under the same law.
So perhaps let's begin with this first question before you answer the one that I'd already posed. Is that what Panyaza Lesufi was trying to replicate in Gauteng with what Begicele is referencing in the Western Cape, except to say there, those are proper law enforcement officers?
Yeah. So in the Western Cape, the so-called LEAP program, these law enforcement officers, are set up as part of the city. They're set up as part of the municipality. The difference in Gauteng is that it's not the city of Johannesburg, it's not the metro, it is the province that has created this new cadre of 6,000, what we call Gauteng crime prevention wardens. The other difference is that in the Western Cape, there is a government gazette that authorizes their appointment. In Gauteng, there is no government gazette that authorizes the appointment of 6,000 people as peace officers in terms of the Criminal Procedure Act. So the Minister of Police is quite right. The power to authorize the creation of these new positions lies with the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services. He has not yet granted that permission.
So what piece of legislation did Panyaza Lesufi use then?
He hasn't used any piece of legislation, and that's the issue, is that I have sent numerous questions to his spokesperson, Sizwe Pamla, and Sizwe Pamla cites all sorts of legislation and policy, but none of them give express authorization to doing this. And the reason why it's important, let's be clear, is that if you're going to create a new police force, if you're going to give them powers to arrest people, if you're going to give them powers to enter people's homes, if you're going to give them guns, then it has to be done within the law, doesn't it? I mean, it's a good thing. We want to supplement our policing capability, but we have to do it in the right way. It has been done outside of the law. As we sit here and speak now, there is no government gazette authorizing the appointment of the Gauteng crime prevention wardens. And I can say that to you with conviction because as part of my investigation, I have spoken to the spokesperson of the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services. And the last time he responded to me saying that they received a request on the 23rd of June 2023 for these appointments, and it was being discussed by the Minister of Justice with the Minister of Police, being discussed. But the problem we have is that whilst those discussions are taking place, the crime prevention wardens are already on the streets, back to front.
There are so many questions that spring up on the back of what you've said, Mark Heywood. We are going to conclude the conversation with the question about the young man who is contemplating suicide now as a result of what has happened to him. I want to keep that as a last thought. But why then would Panyaza Lesufi open his government to being sued? Because this incident that has happened to this young man certainly opens the Gauteng government for possible scrutiny and, in fact, legally so.
Yes, it does.
1.5 billion rand is allocated to these people, yet they exist without the correct legislation being in place. Why did he do it? Does it have to do with him trying to get brownie points ahead of the 2024 elections? Because that's what we always accuse politicians of. But if we're going to do that, Mark, we have to be careful because there is a crime situation that is out of hand in the country in general.
Yes. So, look, Premier Lesufi has accused me of speculation, so I'm not going to speculate. I'm going to say that he may have done this for the best of intentions, to try and combat crime within Gauteng. But the way that it has been done has been rushed. The training has been insufficient. We haven't talked about it, but the training has not been accredited. And it's not that every single one of these 6,000 people is going to abuse their power, but some of them are abusing their power. And that has happened in this one instance with this young man. And what I discovered, and I have to say this is an ongoing investigation, so some of your questions I will happily come back and answer around the budget and how the money has been spent. But what I discovered when we started talking to this young man is that another of the problems is that there is no mechanism for complaints about abuse of power, no proper mechanism. Because these are not official police, they don't fall under IPID, the Independent Investigative Directorate of the Police. The Premier says, if you have a complaint, refer it to the Public Service Commission. Where at the Public Service Commission? If you have a complaint, refer it to the Department of Community Safety. This poor young man, beaten up, unable to urinate, traumatized, sitting in his home in Katlehong, finds himself powerless to do anything. I mean, he's not even able to get surgery. He's gone to public hospitals. He's been pushed from pillar to post. He lives in agony. I'm not exaggerating. I talked to him. I talked to his mum, who is a domestic worker. He lives in daily agony because of this. And one abuse is too much.
We haven't discussed their training, but whatever training there must have been would have to be done in accordance with what the laws of South Africa say in terms of a police officer, even.
Yeah.
A police officer, are they allowed to enter your home in the manner in which you've described, that these people entered this young man's home, beat you to a pulp, to a point where you're almost disabled, without a warrant? What would they possibly have used? Is a police officer
is not
allowed to do that?
No, a police officer is not allowed to do that, because a police officer has to work within clearly defined law. But what we're saying is that at the moment there's no definitions of law. If you look at Section 334 of the Criminal Procedure Act, which is what allows the creation of these peace officers, it lists, I think, about 17 powers that are given to peace officers. It's strange because in some ways those powers are even greater than the powers that are given to the police. They're extremely vague and they're extremely open to abuse, which again is why you need this government gazette that I think should narrow down and say this type of person in this type of community under these circumstances is given the following powers. We don't have that at the moment. And you've raised with me the issue of training, which is another issue. Whistleblowers have come to me and said that the training was completely inadequate. I have correspondence that suggests that the training was done on a very ad hoc basis. And to this day, I have not been able to get a clear answer on who has accredited this training. So in Panyaza Lesufi's response to me, where he's attacking me, what he says is that the training is accredited by the relevant education and training authority under the Department of Transport. Now, why doesn't he say which education and training authority?
Under the Department of Transport.
And why is it under the Department of Transport?
Because this is effectively law enforcement, which raises another question. When his government accounts to the legislature on the use of monies, when his government accounts to the Auditor General, under which department are these people going to come under? 1.5 billion is a lot of money.
Well, they come under the Department of Community Safety. That's where that is who is responsible for this initiative. It's the Department of Community Safety that had its budget increased by 1.5 billion in March of this year in the province's budget speech by the MEC for Finance. You know, we need to be looking into that. But again, to go back to training, you know, these SETAs, there's something called the Safety and Security Sector Education Training Authority. That's where you would think that you would go to accredit people who are involved in safety and security. When I went to them, they couldn't find a course. They couldn't tell me, yes, we've accredited. I haven't seen these people, and I believe that they are men and women of good intention. I'm not certain at this point that they have certificates confirming that they completed these courses. It's not clear to me what identity they carry when they go and enter people's homes and arrest people. You see, these are all the issues that are about abuse of power. And this is why we're having this, this discussion. It's not me trying to, invent a problem to make crime prevention more difficult. The real issue is, what do we have to do to make crime prevention more effective? What is the right way to spend 1.5 billion rand? Should we be doing it through these prevention wardens, or should we be doing it by putting more money into our police force, our police stations, ensuring our police are better equipped, better trained, etc., etc.? These are matters of public importance.
I'm out of time, Mark Heywood, but I still need to conclude the element about the young man who has a problem right now. So we're going to take a break. When we return, we are going to conclude this conversation. You're watching Newsfeed. If you're just joining us, you find us at the tail end of a discussion with the editor of Maverick Citizen, Mark Haywood. We're talking about peace officers who are in Gauteng and have come into existence as a direct result of what the Premier of this province has identified as a need for the province in order to tackle crime and, I suppose, supplement the work of the police because they are overstretched. Mark Haywood, let's conclude the conversation with the young man.
Yeah.
What are his possible legal options? You're not a legal person, but surely these are questions that are uppermost in mind, not just for him, for the family that has to take care of him now.
He has reported this assault to the police and has a case number. He has been visited by the Department of Community Safety after it started to appear in the media. And he has also had a statement taken by IPID because of his allegation that a police officer was present. I believe that this man has a legal right to sue the province for the damages and the injuries that he has suffered. I'm not aware if he has started that process. At the moment, his primary concern is his health and his recovery. And efforts are underway to try to get him into care in a place where he can undergo the surgery that is necessary to make it possible, and I have to be blunt here, for him to be able to urinate again and to be able and to take away the pain. He is also being counselled for trauma, professionally counselled for the trauma that he underwent, and he lives in fear. He's lost his job. He had a job, but he can't do a job. You said earlier on in the conversation that he was almost disabled. He has been disabled. He is currently disabled as a consequence of his injuries. So that's where things stand with him at the moment.
Do we know what line of work he was in?
I do know what ran. I think that he was involved in a call centre, but I'm not 100% certain of that.
And so he's lost that job?
He's lost his job, yes.
Mark Haywood, thank you very much for helping put things into perspective for us and at least letting us in on the investigative work that you have embarked upon here. And as we conclude the conversation with Mark Haywood, I can tell you that the Premier of the Gauteng province has committed to coming and responding to what Mark Haywood has just told us. Mark Haywood, thank you very much for your time. The editor of Daily Maverick joining us in studio here. Such an important discussion of the peace wardens that exist here in Gauteng. Well, the man responsible for bringing them into being is the Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi, who joins us now to respond to the criticism about the province's 6,000 crime prevention wardens. Mr. Premier, thank you very much for your time. Let's kick off the conversation with whether or not the peace wardens exist lawfully. Did you follow a piece of legislation in order to bring them into existence?
Thanks so much, Xoli. I really appreciate the opportunity. Yes, they do. What we've done, we had discussions with the Minister of Police and analyzed crime stats of Gauteng. if you check the crime stats of Gauteng, they're the highest in the country, more than any other province. Actually, if you remove the crime stats of Gauteng, South Africa can be a better country to live if you eliminate crime in Gauteng. And we made a firm proposal to the minister about the view that we want to invest in crime fighting purely because it affects the safety of our people, is chasing away investments, is contributing to a high level of unemployment. So we prioritized crime as an area that needs our investment and needs our attention, and we said it's a priority number one.
Yeah.
On the basis of that, we made a presentation to the minister that we will recruit 6,000 people, that we intend, and I want to emphasize that point, we intend to make them to be peace wardens according to the relevant sections of the law, Section 334 of the Criminal Procedure Act. And on the basis of that, while they're still in training, which that's what they are even now, while they're still in training, we'll await the necessary gazetting from the Minister of Justice. There have been discussions with the Minister of Justice that they are now about to conclude their training, and we need to move with speed for their gazetting. So they're currently in training. We've submitted all the relevant documents, but there's precedent, as you know. Western Cape has this kind of law enforcement agency. There are commandos in the farms that also have the same law enforcement agencies. So they are now under the direct, they don't work on their own, they are under the direct command of the SAPS because they're in practical training. They just finished their theory, they're doing practice now. And as soon as they conclude that aspect, hopefully the gazetting will be concluded and they'll be in a position to stand on their own and then do policing work that they need to do.
All right. Well, there's a very important admission there that you've made, Premier, and that is that the peace wardens are still in training, and add to that the fact that their gazetting, meaning that them ultimately hitting the streets, that will have to be gazetted by the Minister of Justice. So as things stand, these are trainees who should not be on the streets of Gauteng. Why have you allowed for such a situation to happen?
No, Xoli, you are missing the point. You can't train in the bottle. And you can't train in the barracks. You need to train in the act under the supervision. The nurses that are not nurses, but they're in hospitals, being supervised by properly qualified nurses.
So who's supervising the wardens?
They are supervised by the police. They work with the police, they work with the traffic police, and they work with other law enforcement agencies. And they're doing excellent work, I must be honest. So you need to understand, and we are not going to beat about the bush. Our townships, our communities are unpoliced. Where you stay, probably, and many other areas where other people stay, they've got security firms, security companies that are patrolling. And those security firms don't even go to the townships. And our townships have been exposed to serious high levels of crime. I'm challenging you to unpack crime stats and check how many people in the townships are marked, killed, raped. How many women are attacked on their way to taxi rank to bus ranks. Who protects them? No one. Is it because they are not human beings? And we can't fold our arms and say those people must be attacked and be killed purely because they're staying in wrong areas. Only those that have money to hire security firms will be protected in this country. That's a misnomer that must be changed. And that's the reason why we've established this unit to protect our communities. And what are they doing now? Even in training, they're protecting women against rape. They're protecting young children that are studying to write matric at school. When they go home, they're safely escorted.
Yeah.
They've stopped many drug lords who are selling drugs.
Sure.
They've also stopped many people that are stealing copper, disrupting the flow of electricity with cable theft. So they are still in training. There is precedent. There are other provinces that have the same unit will follow the same law and ensure that we've got a unit that can stand on its own. And for now, they're not standing on their own. They are being supervised and they're working with the law enforcement agencies. It's not a unit that is standing on its own.
All right,
and
Premier,
doing as they will.
Let me implore you here to work with me. Time is against us, as you will know.
I know you say that. With Mike, we do not you didn't have time limitations with me because I'm responding to your questions.
No.
There will be time limitations.
No, trust me. We're going to have a lot of time together, but I want us to have a proper conversation that is contextually in step. So, Mark Heywood, as you've mentioned him, he has had a lot to say. Let's just take a listen quickly first to what he has said in relation to the existence of the peace wardens. Let's just take a moment to
listen to him. You can ask me questions, but why should you listen to him in my time? He has his own time. He didn't play me in his debate. Now is my time to respond. Now is my time.
I did play the Minister of Police.
Ask me questions that I can respond to. You don't need to rent a crowd like Mike Heywood. If you don't have an angle to put your story,
trust me.
You don't have to rent a crowd.
No.
Why do you have to rent a crowd?
Fine.
Don't rent a crowd.
I will abandon. Let me abandon Mark Heywood. Let me abandon Mark Heywood.
Don't rent a crowd. Don't gang against
And let me persist on this question, therefore. Let me persist on this question. The peace wardens are on the ground, yet they are under training, but you say that they are under the supervision of the South African Police Service. An incident has happened where a young man has been beaten, and because of his injuries, he's not been able to go to work, and he has lost his job. That's according to Mark Heywood. 2, he has problems urinating, and as a result, he needs surgery. So, my question to you is that your way of ensuring that townships are policed by peace wardens who are going out there and brutalizing people in this fashion? Is that what you had in mind?
No, obviously not. I mean, how do you have police that brutalize people? If there are incidents like that, we have already commissioned a team to investigate. The police are investigating that. But there's no one that can just be attacked for doing nothing. And my worry is that people like you told it, there are 4 people that were killed by farmer commandos last week here in Limpopo. 4 killed by people who were armed to the teeth. Are they police? No. Did you ask them if they've been trained properly? Did you ask them if they operate within the law? Did you ask them if they were gazetted? It's because they killed black people. It doesn't matter. It doesn't work that way. If something is wrong, it's wrong. Whether it's done by ourselves or it's done by the police. How many police investigations are there against police? If we need to be investigated for an unfortunate incident, and I must emphasize an unfortunate incident, I'm waiting for the report, and I told the MEC responsible for this particular task that those that are responsible, if this is true, they must be appropriately attended to. But in the course of work, there will be those that behave in this particular fashion. It does not mean the entire unit therefore is wrong, purely because they attacked one person in a manner that you outlined it. I object to them working outside the law. I object for them to use force unnecessarily. And I've said this. I've attended their training and I've emphasized this particular.
So is that your way of admitting that they did act outside?
No, I said I'm waiting for the report. If the report says they've worked outside the law, I'll share it with you. There's nothing to hide there. But why choose this unit alone, Tony? It's part of people like Mark Heywood and other institutions that will ignore the policing needs of our people in our communities. Our communities don't sleep because there are guns that are going overnight, every night, attacked. They're locked into their houses. You go to Tembisa, every street is blocked now by communities. Ambulances can't go there. People, they need their safety. You go to any taxi rank where people are marked. You go to any society that we have in the townships where they're not policed. It does not mean if you have to police them, you have to police them wrongly. I'll be the first one to condemn that. But where we are, we've managed to push back criminal elements in our communities, in our townships. And there are forces that are not happy about it. And I'm sorry if you want to be part of those forces, Tony, and that you have to rent a crowd of Mike Heywood to come and condemn the policing of our people. Crime is out of control in our country. And we're not going to fold our arms and say crime is out of control and therefore we do nothing. Whatever that we'll do within the confinement of the law, we'll do it.
Premier Lesufi, let me assure you that I do not rent a crowd, and nor am I swayed easily by either conversation. Mine is to get the correct story so that I put those questions to the relevant people.
No, you sound like a peacock. You sound like a peacock. You just duplicate what Mark Heywood is saying.
No, Premier Lesufi. No. And as a result, what we are going to do, if you allow me, is to take a break because it's nearly 1 minute before 11. I have to take a break. When we return, are you able to continue the discussion? Because there are other questions that need answering.
No, if you schedule the interview at 10:30, I have to go into a cabinet meeting now at 10. I'm prepared to apologize in that cabinet and come back to you. We can continue at 10:30. And I knew this is what you'll do. You gave Mike Haywood all the time.
And I'm willing to give you, and I am willing to give you just as ample time. Allow me. No, you didn't have to demand it. All I wanted was for you to listen to what he had to say.
You're renting a crowd. You must have your own views, not Mike Haywood's views. Have your own views, Tony. Your own views, unless your own views are rented.
Here is no. Because now what you are accusing me of is of being unable to exercise independent thought. That is exactly the opposite of what I'm doing.
I'm glad you know. I'm glad you know that.
Because of your insistence, let's do this then. I'm going to abandon the break and continue the discussion. How much is given to these trainees? Because you have said that they are in training. 1.5 billion is allocated to them thus far. So what is given to them now in training, and once they are fully operational, what will that stipend be?
No. They're in training, like receiving a stipend of 6,000 a month. That's a stipend. As soon as they conclude training and they stand on their own, based on the assessment of training, they will be then appointed according to various ranks as commanders, as commissioners, and all other related positions within the law enforcement agencies. And it's wrong to say they've been given 1.5 billion. It's not right.
No, 1.5 billion is allocated.
No. Ask me. Don't listen to Mike Heywood. He will mislead you. Told you. Ask me. I'm here. Why do you have to put a figure that is not there?
So how much is budgeted for them? Just for their training?
The budget that is allocated for them for training is 350 million. It's the budget, not the entire amount of money. So that they can be trained, they can have a tool of trade like a uniform, guns, they can have torches, they can have handcuffs, and they are also using technology. We're utilizing them to monitor CCTVs, we're utilizing them also to monitor cable theft, and also utilizing them to support the police through helicopters, drones, and other law enforcement tools that are going to give to them. So that's how they are. And we are giving support not only to them, but to the police. We've given police of Gauteng 75 new vehicles. We've also given them 25 mobile police stations. That's part of that budget, because it's not about them alone. We are part of a law enforcement machinery of the province. They are not a standalone. And any attempts to paint them as a standalone unit will be defeated, because it's not true. They are under the command of the police. They are under the command of traffic police. We've got Gauteng police. We also have a special unit of the provincial government. And all those particular units are giving these resources to police and protect citizens of Gauteng, in particular in the township.
I need for our discussion to be thematic. So, at the moment, they are getting a 6,000 rand stipend. Once they are fully fledged, how much will an individual get paid?
It depends on their training. Do you use a gun properly? It depends on your training. Do you have the proper qualification? It depends on your training, whether you can be in a position to be part of a special unit. It depends on your training, whether you are part of an anti-land invasion unit. It depends on your training, whether you control traffic or what. So that will only be concluded after they conclude training. They're still in training. And when they conclude that training, they'll do the work.
So who's providing the training?
There are various institutions, like the traffic police that we have, are training them. And the SAPS is also assisting us in some form of a training.
Is it formalized training?
It is. It is formalized training. That is why you've got traffic police. How do traffic police be trained? Because we're utilizing their training institution, their venues, in terms of how to utilize a gun, how to read the law, how to follow the law. And they've done that. They've been trained by the same traffic police that stops you every day when they need to try a driver's license or checking a car. They follow that particular law, and they're in training, and are being supported by those institutions, and are using the same facilities.
The Minister of Police, Begitele, he seemed to be distancing himself from the peace wardens, and he said that he cannot answer on their existence because that has got to be done by the Minister of Justice.
And it's correct. It's the Minister of Justice that must regulate us, and we have submitted the necessary papers to the Minister of Justice.
And so, Premier Lesufi, when an incident such as the one we have discussed about the young man has occurred, when that young man sues the department or a Gauteng government, who is going to be responsible for paying up owing to his injuries, the loss of income, and the like? Who is going to be held responsible? Who houses these peace wardens? Under which department?
I'm saying to you, they work under the supervision of the police and other law enforcement agencies. On that particular day, we have to check who was the supervisor of that particular unit when the incident happened. And I have condemned if indeed that incident happened. I'm still waiting for the full report, and will attend to it, will visit even the said victim and check how we can provide the necessary support. They work under supervision of law enforcement agents. The person that was supervising them will be in a position to give us those answers. But besides, the Minister of Police, we have been in discussions even when we launched this peace warning. The Deputy Minister was there to launch this thing. So to say that he does not know how they operate, how they work, might be not correct, because we've been working with them, and we've been even engaging the provincial police. And even when the police do their operation, they utilize our wardens for additional support, additional manpower. So we are waiting for the Minister of Justice to conclude the paperwork. They've asked us for additional information. We've given them additional information. But besides, there is precedent. There is a law enforcement agency like this one in Western Cape, and it's operating outside the police. And therefore, there will be no need.
Yeah, but you can't compare the two. Premier, with due respect, you cannot compare the two, because the people in the Western Cape, and this is why it's important for you to allow me to at least play some of these clips, because you're then going to attribute it to me. The Minister of Police is very clear that the people in the Western Cape exist because, number one, they are gazetted, and that's why they exist under the Criminal Procedure Act, because the Minister of Justice has issued that gazette. No, wait, Premier, wait. I've given you a lot of time. No, Premier. No, Premier. I have invited you, but allow me to pose a question, and I will pose it contextually. I'm saying to you, you have got to agree that you have rushed this situation of peace officers hitting the ground, and with you rushing it, you have opened taxpayers to being sued by a man who has been brutalized by people who are under training. Yes, they are under police supervision, but they are under training. There is no way that you are going to win in court if it is found that these people acted outside of the law. Do you disagree with that?
I do. Vigorously so. I do. Solely. They are under training, and when they conclude training, they will be gazetted, and they will operate on their own.
They are trainees, Premier. They are trainees.
Yes, they are. I've never disputed that fact.
So how are they allowed to go into someone's home?
But I thought you'd give me time. When you asked me to give you time, I did, and you don't want to give me time.
Please go ahead.
Unfortunately. No, don't behave this way, dude. You need to have a mature debate and discussion.
You personalize
it. If you have a view, I am, because if you have a view, it's clear that you are influenced and are not using logic to debate and have this discussion. I said to you, there is precedent in terms of Western Cape. And you said I can't compare the two. And I was trying to listen to you why you say I can't compare the two. And you say they're going to be, it's because the Western Cape are gazetted. And I said we've applied to be gazetted. Upon conclusion of training, obviously have to wait to be gazetted to stand alone.
Are you suggesting that the people in the Western Cape, they hit the streets before a law gazetted them to do so?
No, but I don't know their training. Who knows? Maybe before they were gazetted, they were training.
Yeah, but you see, we are talking under speculative circumstances. So that's why I'm saying to you, you cannot compare your situation with that of the Western Cape, because those people.
And I'm listening to you to check why I can't compare. I'm listening to you to check why I can't compare, and I can't get it. Because there's no doctor that can just be a doctor without training. There's no nurse that can be a nurse without training. And there's no policeman that can be a policeman without training by remaining in the bottle. You have to be in the field.
And so,
that's what you're doing.
All right, let's use your example of a trainee. A trainee doctor can be allowed to perform heart surgery on a patient that is likely to lose their life.
No, they can't, unless they are under supervision. They do that under supervision. And that's what you're saying, Xoli. I don't understand your argument, actually, Xoli. I honestly don't, unless if I'm lost. I don't understand your argument.
Premier Lesufi, let me ask you one final question.
Please do.
If and when you are sued as a government of Gauteng for what has happened to that young man, what is it that you are going to argue in court when this person has been brutalized by people who are under training?
Sorry, if this incident happened is an unfortunate incident, we are investigating it. If indeed it goes to the court, we don't just go to court to defend any matter. If there's no need to defend it, there will be no need to defend it. If there is a need to defend it, we will defend it. I don't want to prejudge that approach. And it's one incident amongst many incidents where people that were supposed to be attacked were protected, where houses were supposed to be robbed were protected, where cable theft was supposed to be stolen were protected, where many people were supposed to be marked were not marked, where young people after studying could not be attacked by criminals because they are protected by this unit. We can compare the work that they do and the unfortunate work that has happened, and that is regretted, and we'll find a way of resolving. You can't use one incident and brush everyone as if this is a team that is incompetent and they don't know their work and they cannot be protected or they cannot protect our citizens. If you want to minimize the effect of crime in our communities, especially in our townships, do so too. We are not going to fold our arms when our people are attacked. We are not going to fold our arms when criminals have taken over our townships, our informal settlement and hostels, where there is a high level of lawlessness, where people want to invade any lands to put informal settlement, where people can just do as they wish in our townships, sell drugs to our children and destroy a generation with drugs. And you feel that we'll just fold our arms and say it's normal. Is it because it's black lives? We're not going to allow that. We will defend it within the law and will ensure that those that are given the task to legislate the law must do so. If they want to play politics, it will be unfortunate.
Premier Lesufi, let's conclude the conversation on this point. And again, I am exercising independent thought. I don't think for a second I don't doubt for a second that the areas you've mentioned, townships, they are under siege because of crime. And so, indeed, we cannot fold our arms. The people there need the help, particularly if the help is going to come from the state. But it's how you go about doing it that matters, because in so doing, you are also exercising caution in how taxpayers' monies are going to be used or defend what should be defendable in court, not something that is going to be indefensible. But that's where I end my bit. You're welcome to give me your last thoughts.
Well, I appreciate that. The problem is that when our communities are protected, there must be question marks. But those that have resources and money when they have private security that are armed that you don't know, no one raised their voices. You go to farms, there are farm commandos that are armed to the teeth. They've killed 4 people last week. I narrated that. Do people like you who claim to be independent raise their views about that? You didn't. And how many private security companies that are not even registered, that are protecting certain people in our communities? Do you raise your voice about their training and who funds them? No. It's inconsistency that makes us sick, Xoli. If we have to protect township people, if we have to protect people in informal settlement that are killed, there was a shooting in Davidton, in a tavern. People just enjoying their drinks. People came in and shot them. 7 dead. You go to Mamelodi, the same, in a tavern, shot dead. You want us to fold our arms as leaders and say, because of laws or limitations there and there, we can't do that. Don't count me. I care for our communities and I'll protect them, whatever it takes. Even if it takes me to jail for protecting our communities, let it be so. I will protect our communities against criminals. We can't have a province where criminals do it as they wish, rape our women, attack people in their houses, take their property, steal their cars, and we have to fold our arms and be told about paper procedures that people are delaying or paying politics about it. I'm not going to do that. Don't count me. Right. I'm committed to protect our communities, and I will do so, whatever it takes. If I have the capabilities to do so, I'll do so. But one thing for sure, I will do it within the confinement of the law, because you can't fight crime using laws that are outside our constitution. Right. And other laws that we have. We'll do it within the confinement of the law. And if something is outside the confinement of the law, I'll be the first one to condemn, protect, and take disciplinary action against affected individuals.
Okay. The Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi, thank you very much for your time.